And welcome back to Hot and Cold Podcast. Today we're in June. It's June 3rd. I moved in to Nashville. This is my permanent settling place, Nashville, Tennessee, for the summer. Joining me today, obviously, the one and only Connor Lockyer, the best co-host in the world. How you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for that introduction.
Yeah, I'm feeling generous. I'm in this. I'm in a new spot. I'm not in. Obviously, I'm not home in Evansville, Indiana, but I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm feeling kind of jittery, ready to go.
I like it. It's actually funny because we were talking earlier, forgot you were leaving. Went and ended up playing that round of golf that we were supposed to play. Actually went pretty well. Didn't go too bad. First round of the summer. So the slice is still there on the drive. But it's better. It's a lot better than it was. I'm not hitting any houses. So
how'd you play? Like what was your score? Or were you just kind of playing around?
We scrambled the first 9, and then I shot what did I shoot on the back 9? Because we played our own ball on the back 9.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say I was like a plus 9 or 10 or 11, something like that on the back 9. Like it wasn't awful. Mm-hmm. I mean, start off hole 10 after a little lunch break with a 7 on a par 4. So it was like, oh man, might as well just stop and go home. But kind of reeled it in after that and got focused.
Oh yeah, no, I get it. Well, I'm happy to hear that you're getting your golfing on. I kind of was ahead of you. I'm not playing my best golf, but I'll have to find some courses down in Nashville. If we have any Nashville listeners, I got to know the course to play. I got to know. I'm fiending for golfing. This is my weekend. I'm living with my sister. So this is if you're watching on YouTube, this is kind of my studio for the near future. But if we have any Tennessee listeners, let me know where to golf. And so I just moved down here, kind of just to a little preamble before we get into the big time content. I have a feeling I'm going to be dodging Tennessee fans my entire stay. Because Tennessee football and basketball, they kind of feel like they're back a little bit. All of my rivals are kind of, IU, Tennessee, Louisville, they all feel like they're coming back. They're chomping at Kentucky a little bit. It's fine, but I feel like I might have to run in with back. Tennessee. Okay.
We're not thinking we're back. We are back. Okay. But there is a mutual hatred of Tennessee for us because Indiana football played them in a bowl game.
Was that the Gator Bowl?
2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now. I can't even remember. I think it was 3 years ago. And I went to the game, and it was in Jacksonville, and Rocky Top is the worst. It is the worst song. And I'm in a hotel, and we go down for breakfast that morning because the game is at night, and it is like 95% Tennessee fans. And we're like wearing our Indiana. It's like, man, we don't belong here. And we get to the game, it's like 85% Tennessee. And it was I can't stand them. I cannot stand Tennessee people.
Well, I'm not gonna act like I know anything about baseball, but I'm hearing they have a very good baseball team this year.
They do. Yeah.
They do. And Kentucky, they swept them earlier in the year, no big deal. But I'm not gonna act like I know anything. That's literally maybe the only thing I know about this college baseball season. But Tennessee's kind of feeling themselves a little bit. They got their swagger back. So does Louisville. So does Indiana. We'll get to Indiana, obviously, because we are doing a Big Ten conference preview, and then we're gonna play one of our favorite games, where Connor asked me teams, and me being the very opinionistic person I am. Opinionistic is a new word. I give my opinion if they're frauds or if they're real. So before we kind of get into that, why not? Let's just get into the Big Ten preview. We don't got much else to talk about. Look, we said this last year. Obviously, it came back to bite us because Big Ten wasn't terrible. They got the most teams in the tournament. So obviously they weren't bad, but we pretty much claimed them to be terrible at the beginning of the year. This year, kind of feeling the same way. it's hard to kind of jump on board with that because of how wrong we were last offseason. But
in our defense, it was Kofi was leaving to go to Kentucky or somewhere else. Didn't know about Wisconsin because
Johnny Davis
they shocked
know about
everybody.
Johnny Davis. Yeah. Keegan Murray.
We were right on Purdue. Let's just throw that out there. They fizzled out just like we thought they would, and we're never believers in them. Mm-hmm. And Iowa, I just didn't think we weren't wrong considering how their season finished. They were just, a powerhouse on offense.
We were kind of correct on all of them when we got to the tournament.
The way the season ended for most of the Big Ten teams, we were basically correct. Like, no one was really that good.
And we were highest on Michigan.
Who was one of honestly, the better teams by the end. They just, they
had a bad non-conference leading up to the Big Ten. But yeah, let's kind of get into the teams before we get to your. Actually, I kind of want to do it this way because look, the elephant in the room is Indiana. Everybody and their moms and national media is saying Indiana is going to win the conference. That's a new trendy thing to say. Every offseason, you'll get some trendy opinions that kind of every writer kind of unanimously agrees on. Not to say it's always wrong, but also definitely not to say it's always right. Indiana is being picked to win the Big Ten by almost everybody. Our
Big Ten runs through Bloomington. That's
good buddy Torres, John Rothstein. John Rothstein uttered that phrase. I don't know what Andy Katz said. I know you were looking at his list earlier.
Well, he's got them at 7 on their Power 36, which is the top Big Ten team. So I'm assuming he would be in agreement. Look, I don't think that they're saying they're going to.
I'll let you go, but I do want to say from a podcast that originates in Bloomington, Indiana, from a podcast that their fan base, heavily Indiana leaning, half the co-hosts on this podcast, IU fan. We may be the lowest on IU going into this season, which is crazy to say.
Oh yeah. And I'm as irrational as it gets sometimes.
Sure. Yeah. But it is kind of interesting to see. Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, just back to the national media. I don't think they're saying you have to, I don't know. It's the way they say it, I guess, that they're saying it goes through Bloomington. I don't know if that necessarily means they're going to win it. Like Torres kind of jumped on Rothstein's tweet and just kind of piggybacked it. Saying it runs through Bloomington, I get it. I think I interpret that as, okay, they have more people back than anybody else. And they are maybe the most experienced team. That doesn't make them the best. They're just going to be probably the highest ranked at the beginning, which again, I hate preseason rankings. I think they're stupid. Most of the ranking is based off of the previous year more than anything. Case in point, like UCLA last year, overrated from the beginning, which we'll touch on some of those teams later.
But how long are you going to stay on this? Because I know it's going to be a slow fade into the Indiana, because you're doing the thing because of what you said about Purdue last offseason, where you're like, okay, returning your roster doesn't mean anything. I don't really care. But how long is it going to take you to fade?
They have made some additions, I will say.
Okay, you're starting.
But I mean, like Purdue. Purdue returned everyone, but didn't, add 2 fringe 4 5-stars like Indiana has. I think that matters.
Yeah.
And you lose some guys that played a lot of minutes last year that are going to be replaced probably by better players on the floor. I don't know. I'm trying to be not super optimistic. It's hard because it's everything is falling into place for them to go win it. I don't, everybody's teams are just getting destroyed. I mean, Michigan loses everybody except Dickinson, basically. I didn't realize that Caleb Houston was basically a lock to stay in the draft from the beginning. Diabate was kind of the surprise, but I didn't expect both of them to leave.
I thought Diabate would leave and Houston would stay. I was surprised
that's what I was thinking
both
too,
of them
probably.
went. Yeah.
Again, Illinois has made a lot of moves, but as we've seen, it's kind of hard to just throw a team together. I mean, that's a bunch of people that haven't played together. And
Sure.
what have they been without Kofi Coburn? I mean, not great. And you could even say the same thing about like Trent Frazier and a couple of their other guys. But, other than that, I really, I don't know. Indiana's the way they played at the end of the season. Again, you could say it's a fluke, could be. We're going to find out, but it's going to be, yeah, you're right. It's going to be hard for me to not at some point say, all right, screw it. They're going to win the whole damn thing. And I'm not there yet. It's only June 3rd, though.
No, but this is what I'm saying about kind of the psychology of, not to get all nerdy, but the psychology of everybody saying, if one person says that they think Indiana's going to win the Big Ten, everybody jumps on board because everybody had Indiana in that anywhere from 19 to 23 range. And Indiana makes no roster moves. It's just how the draft deadline shakes out. I'm saying even after Trace decided to stay, after the draft deadline shakes out, Michigan loses all those guys. Michigan State loses Max Christie. That's when Indiana takes their surge. And it's not like they added anybody. It was just kind of, the reaction based off Michigan's loss. And, and that's an interesting way to see. I'm not saying they're wrong because obviously, look, these guys get paid to do this. We do this as a hobby. But in my opinion, I would be hesitant with how this Indiana team is constructed because in my opinion, it's the same team. And unless Woodson is willing to kind of shorten the leash on his freshman, let maybe Tamar Bates get a lot more time than he did last year, let Hood-Schifino actually go out there and start playing because he seems like a very marketable player. He seems like somebody that is going to be very popular within the community and the fan base. There might be enough uproar for Woodson to put him in the game. And who knows? I mean, you probably know more about Renault as a player than I do. I don't know if he's going to be the type of player that'll be ready day one on campus because I know he is that fringe 4-5 star. And there's a log jam in the front court at Indiana. So I will be interested to see it. All depends on how the rotation kind of is. If Woodson has kind of learned enough from his first year in college ball to do that. That's kind of where I stand on Indiana's ceiling. Compared to the rest of the Big Ten, we can kind of do that. We can kind of go team by team. And since it runs through Bloomington, we can compare all the teams to Indiana.
I think, like you said, hesitant on Indiana. I don't blame you for being hesitant on Indiana. I just think that these national guys are so hesitant on these teams because I think the two biggest threats to Indiana, like as of now, I don't know how the portal is going to shake out. I don't think there's too many huge names left in the portal. I mean, I know you've got your spreadsheet. The number one guy left just committed to Gonzaga. So, I mean, there's obviously some players that could surprise and, go to Michigan or somewhere in the Big Ten. But Ohio State and Illinois are, I think, two of the bigger threats to Indiana. And both of those teams lost their guys. I mean, they lost Liddell, they lost Coburn, and those teams are going to be thrown together, one off season. That's all they're going to have together before they start playing games. Like I feel like the chemistry, it's going to be a little off at first for those teams. Could be good at the end of the year.
Sure.
Or maybe they do click right away. I don't know. But as far as Indiana, I think everybody just likes the fact that it's the same group. It's the run it back style. They'll improve. I've already heard stuff like, oh, well, now they're focusing on offense. Oh, thank God. I mean, I would hope so.
Let's just hope it's not that thing when they posted the video of the yoga, and then they posted another video of all the replies saying go shoot free throws.
Just total trolling at this point. I'm assuming there probably will be more of that.
Yeah.
As far as like the lineup thing goes, real quick, and we get to some other teams, I would just like pencil this in. I think Miller Kopp is in the starting lineup next year. I know it's going to frustrate a lot of people.
Definitely.
But I just, who else is going to start? Like, again, if Jordan Geronimo could shoot threes, we'll love it. Be great. I think Miller Kopp probably starts. We're talking about this with somebody the other day. They were just like, oh my God, I cannot believe why he's so terrible. I was like, well, I think he hopefully would have a more defined role and could fit better in the offense. And maybe they'll tweak some things and let him do more things that he's comfortable with. But I don't know. I just think that if he's not out there, the floor spacing is going to be.
It's going to be brutal. It would be brutal without it because, they, as much as we hated on Parker Stewart, we didn't really hate on him, but he just didn't provide. He was their shooter because obviously Miller Kopp didn't really do anything on the court. When he was out there, like, he would space the floor, but he didn't really do anything. And now that they don't have that, they have to rely on Miller Kopp much more than they did last year in that role. So I'll be interested to see how I talk about kind of with NIL, there is marketability with these players. I don't know how much that leads to playing time within the organization, but I expect it could. Miller Kopp is doing his best to be the most marketable person on that team with that. I don't remember what his gear is called exactly. He has some sort of brand, but he's going around I saw he just went to high school graduation party in Bloomington. Like, he's doing all this stuff for the community. It's really cool to see. It'd be cool if he could actually provide on the court, though. That's
it's a guy that you want to root for and hope that he does well. And if he doesn't, I think they have some other options. But that involves players making a lot of progress this offseason. So it's just a wait and see. But again, I think even if you just ran it back, same team, same offensive ranking, which they weren't awful offensively when you really look at like the Ken Pom rankings. They were like dead last in the country or anything. And if they have their same defense, I think that wins the Big Ten. I think it does, purely off the fact that everybody else is going to be so much worse than what they were this year.
I think the thing about Indiana is a lot of why you have to be careful is even if they're talent-wise so much better than the rest of the teams in the Big Ten, even if that's the case, the style of play they play will make every game close, and that's how it was last year, aside from a random Nebraska game or if they're getting blown out by a high-powered offense like they did in that Michigan game. Every game in that Big Ten will be close. And that allows, obviously that plays into Indiana style, but it also allows for all these other teams to have a chance near the end of the game. So let's kind of jump right into it. I think the team, I can kind of dictate this. I'll save the team that I think is my favorite for last. Obviously all these teams, none of them stick out at all, but look, Ohio State, they're bringing in, in my spreadsheet, obviously I love to make these stats. They have the number 7 ranked transfer class, bringing in Likely from Oklahoma State, Sean McNeil from West Virginia, and Tanner Holden from Wright State. Look, Tanner Holden is obviously, he's a mid-major guy. He had a lot of the percentage of shots over at Wright State. So I don't know how that will translate to Ohio State, but he was a 20-point per game scorer over there. He's coming into this team. It was obviously decimated, and I think he could be a big contributor. Obviously, Likely, the defensive monster, McNeil, a great shooter, kind of replacing Aarons in that role. But again, they're bringing back Zed Key, who's been a great defensive big man throughout his entire Ohio State career. In their recruiting class, I think they're bringing in 3 top 75 recruits. So I'm not really all in on this team. They've had an impressive turnaround after losing, half of their offense and EJ Liddell. So I'm kind of in. How do you feel about this team? I don't know how they will be compared to Indiana, since that's how we're kind of doing it. Maybe a little bit worse just because of the losing that big man play and EJ Liddell, and obviously that was their entire offense, so it's kind of hard to replace that. But how do you feel about that team?
Yeah, I don't know. Ohio State was interesting last year. I never really bought into them, but I was never fully out on them either. Like I could never really make up my mind. I always thought Liddell was going to be a matchup problem, regardless of who he was playing. But I just think when you lose guys like EJ Liddell and Kyle Young and Aaron's, like you said, Jamari Wheeler, I mean, they lost just a lot of guys. And Justice Suing coming back, I think is big. I think people forget last year that he like just didn't play. Right. He was kind of a pivotal part to their team 2 years ago. But again, that backcourt has never played together. Zed Key basically stopped playing last year and was replaced by Joey Brunk at times, which that's true. There's a lot of familiar listeners to Joey, like people we know Joey Brunk, and he's struggled at times, and I think that's telling. But I think they'll be fine. But again, the biggest thing too is losing Malachi Branham. I just don't. That's going to be hard to replace.
That's huge too. That's
you have Liddell and Branham both gone. I just don't know how you replace that scoring. And, Kyle Young is labeled as that glue guy. I don't know who the glue guy is going to be on this team. Like maybe it's Suing. I don't know. He's going to be kind of that vet. I think it's just going to be tough for him. Now, the freshmen coming in, I think are probably good. Bruce Thornton was originally an IU target at one point and was in their top 5, I think. I think he's a good player, but how much can you expect out of a freshman? I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be ready. Could get thrown in the fire very, very quickly because their guards, I feel like everything's kind of up in the air because everybody's new. It's just going to be the best 3 guys are going to get those starting spots.
Yeah, like you said, it's that Texas style. What happened, last year? You're just kind of throwing these guys together. And look, none of them except for Holden were really the number one option in their previous spots. So I think that could help. Just they're glue guys from their old spots. Maybe they take up that same role. But I mean, look, Chris Holtmann, he's gonna have to have way more trust in his young guys than he has in the past. Obviously, look, Branham was he was a exception to the rule, but he brings in guys like Michi Johnson, who couldn't really get it going. He was a high recruit. But Ohio State, they just don't really have to utilize their young players as much. Now they will. This year, they definitely will, kind of a depleted roster. And Zed Key, I prefaced him by saying he's a great defensive big man because he has been, but he is very undersized at his position. He's not the biggest guy in the world. He's tall in that manner. He's built, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they kind of shake out. I don't really see them being better than Indiana still. But
Indiana's beaten them at least once the past 2 years, and Ohio State's been the better team. So I'm not saying they're going to beat them twice, but I just the gap of talent. Ohio State was always in favor, and Indiana was already trailing in that regard, and they still would find a way to beat them at home.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this year it's like, Zed Key's going to get in foul trouble with Trace and Race, and who's going to come in? Like, I don't see that going very well. And there's no wing scorer to give them any issues. So,
kind of moving on to Michigan, obviously bringing in Jalen Llewellyn from you like that pronunciation? I got that.
Good.
From Princeton. He was previously committed to from Princeton, previously committed to Clemson. Knew I was going to screw that up somehow. Obviously, Juwan Howard bringing in 2 of his sons, which is kind of crazy to see, and then Hunter Dickinson, their star player, who's going to have to absolutely put on the backpack and carry this team. Now, this team, they're one player away. We were talking about it before I hit record from being, in my opinion, the favorite in this conference. They add Terrence Shannon. I have them as a favorite. But obviously, he wasn't able to make grades. Whatever happened behind the scenes with Mark Adams and Hunter Dickinson, obviously beefing, which is very funny to see. They just don't have him. He goes to Illinois. I think Michigan is kind of doomed. the way to gauge Michigan is where I'm at on them. I was out on them in their big year when they went to the Elite Eight, lost to UCLA. I was completely out on them all year, and they ended up being a 1 seed, whatever. Last year, I was in on them. They were an 11 seed. Obviously, they made a bit of a run, but, I'm out on them this year, so it might be worth kind of fading me in that regard. And Hunter Dickinson's going to be, National Player of the Year because I said that. But how do you feel about Michigan? I just don't think Hunter Dickinson he's great. I don't think he's good enough to carry this team for what it's worth because they don't have any guard play. They don't really have any wing play. They lost Johns. Another depleted roster, but there's one kind of star in the rough right there.
Yeah, I mean, you lose Brandon Johns, Eli Brooks, Devontae Jones, Frankie Collins. I mean, losing Frankie Collins, Devontae Jones is just like your backcourt's gone. And then obviously we talked about Diabate and Houston. I think if Caleb Houston's back, I mean, it could be a toss-up on who's the favorite just because I think him getting that second year, he would probably turn into a really good player. I mean, they were so hit and miss, and they kind of hit their stride last year when they shot the three well. Like I that Indiana game is burned into my memory because they shot like 75% from three and ran us out of the gym.
Mm-hmm.
And then immediately went home and shot like 20% and lost by 20. It was like, all right, what the hell is going on? But again, Dickinson coming back is fine. Who else is going to provide any scoring? Like I don't, this whole roster again has never played together. Like this is not a Big Ten thing. Like Big Ten teams usually are the Purdue's last year, the Indiana's this year. I mean, the core usually is together. Rutgers, everybody's coming back. Iowa was kind of the same way. I mean, it's just going to be a very weird year. Like even Illinois last year, you could say was once Kofi was back, the nucleus.
Illinois' core was huge. Like that was they maintained that Curbelo, Frazier, DeMonte Williams, Kofi core. And obviously Curbelo, he kind of fell off, but I mean, that's why they were good last year. You're right.
I mean, that's what the Big Ten had been doing, add in one or two guys, Illinois adds in Plummer and everybody else is the same because then that's not a hard thing to do. But this is new territory for almost everybody. Again, Purdue and Indiana are Purdue's just kind of lost. They lost some players, but that the young guys, the core is still there. Like those players have played together, practiced together. They haven't got a lot of playing time, but it's going to be really interesting. I just don't think Michigan has the firepower because what are you going to do when Dickinson gets double teamed, triple teamed? Like somebody's going to have to step up. I don't know who it's going to be. I think this Princeton guy was good at Princeton. I don't know how that translates to the Big Ten. I mean, even Devontae Jones, who was, I would have liked to see where he was in your spreadsheet if we had it last year, but he was 20 points per game scorer.
I can give you where I had the pronunciation pulled up and I already got rid of it. This Princeton kid he's number 54 in my transfer portal ranking.
Okay.
Which is
like Devontae Jones was 25-5 at Coastal Carolina, and then he comes to Michigan and it's like 8-6.
I mean, he got it going. Yeah, he got it going. But
again, you see the impact, and I don't know. I cannot pick them again over Indiana in a conference ranking solely off of, again, I don't trust their roster. I don't even know. I don't know. I don't know how these people are going to play together.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I have no idea. I can't gauge this Michigan team, but when you bring back
Terrence Shannon, though, like you said, if you have a Terrence Shannon and like a Caleb Houston, they're easy Big Ten favorites.
For sure. It's
like not even close.
I think if there's one guy, if you had to pick a big man from last year in the Big Ten to kind of carry a team, I'm not saying to carry a team. I'm not saying who's the best, but to carry a team, it'd be a guy like Dickinson because he's a versatile big.
Over Trace?
Yeah. He's versatile. He can kind of create on his own. He's a good passer, or he's a better passer, and he has somewhat of a jump shot. I think
I will say the 3-point shot was much improved.
And so I think that's that's huge. I still don't think that's enough to carry a team to a Big Ten championship, though.
Yeah, so I would agree. If Dickinson can improve the jumper, does that mean Trace can do it too?
No.
Okay, not say
necessarily.
Trace. Say
because Dickinson had some potential that you could see.
If Trace has the jumper that Dickinson did last year, is he like National Player of the Year, like guaranteed?
No.
No. What about Big Ten Player of the Year?
Do you remember when you said that Trace was a better basketball player than Hunter Dickinson last year? You still on that? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. That's cool. That's cool.
I mean, just purely off of recency bias.
Purely.
The one-on-one matchup in the Big Ten tournament, who won that matchup?
Trace did, yeah.
That's what I'm going with.
Okay.
It's just the easiest thing to do. There's other reasons why. I mean, but that's just one of them.
I mean, it was bold at the time. It's less bold now because, I mean, none of them really improved all that much from that. Besides, obviously, Dickinson's jump shot got a little bit better. But
I think it's hard to. You flip those guys. You put Trace on Michigan and Dickinson on Indiana. How good is Dickinson on Indiana? I don't know. Let's see him operate with no space on the floor and trouble getting the ball on the post.
Definitely. But I think he's a little bit more versatile than Trace still. Like
who's better defensively?
Oh, not even close. Dickinson gets babied by every big.
Okay. I was gonna say.
I was agreeing with you. What was that?
You started with Dickinson. I was just like, oh my god, like this. Don't.
No, he gets babied by every big that he goes up against. So,
all right, that's fair enough.
Let's move on to. We have to do it. Purdue.
Yikes.
I mean, Zach Edey, Mason Gillis, Brandon Newman, Caleb Furst. It's the role players from last year. Add in a few Indiana freshmen. I'm not going to count Matt Painter out in the regular season.
They're going to overachieve. They're
going to overachieve. They're probably going to end up being ranked at the end of the year. I don't see them staying there for long. I don't see them being there for long, but I think they might make some sort of push. I can't make a good argument. You could probably make a better argument for Purdue than I could.
I mean, if Brandon Newman turns into Jaden Ivey, they will maybe be in the top 25 by the end of the year.
If he turns in, look, first of all, their big man, Zach Edey, he was effective because they were able to hide him in some matchups and play Travion Williams. He hates playing basketball. I want to get that out of the way. Zach Edey, when you watch him play, watch his face throughout the game. He hates playing basketball. And now he's going to have to do that 30 to 35 minutes a game.
That's the funny. Yeah, like that's the funniest thing about it is he will have to play a lot. And, I'm looking at the Purdue projected starting five. Braden Smith is in there. He's going to be a freshman, like starting a freshman at point guard. Brandon Newman, who has hardly played significant minutes. Ethan Morton, just a role guy, can't do a lot, can't create his own shot that well. Mason Gillis, who played last year, was pretty effective, but not anything special. And then
he might be their best player, Mason Gillis. There's a very high likelihood that he is. Yeah.
I just don't think that you can overcome losing your starting point guard, losing your best shooter, losing Jaden Ivey, and losing Travion. Like that's a lot. And I'm not saying Purdue should be it's not Matt Painter's fault. Like this just happens. That's what happens when you keep a core together for 4 years or however many years Ivy was there with them.
I mean, just look at the guys they lost in the portal. I mean, these are not guys that you expect them to lose. It's been a devastating offseason for them. Eric Hunter, obviously gone. Isaiah Thompson, he was a guy that maybe could slide into that point guard. Gone.
His brother's on the staff, which is
bizarre. And he went to FGCU. He chose FGCU.
He wants to be the star of the show. Look, Brandon Newman, I remember watching him in high school. Like, he can score.
Yeah.
But
No, he had
he's
a
gonna have to
really
hone
good
that in. Yeah.
had a really good freshman year. Sucked last year. Look, there was an actual argument, believe this or not. After their freshman years, there was an actual argument on who's the better player, Brandon Newman or Jaden Ivey. One took a step forward, a huge step forward, and one took a big step backwards. If Newman can kind of hone that in, maybe, but
They still suck.
Yeah, they're still going to be bad. They're still going to be bad because Edey can't guard it. He can't guard a guard when they drive. Like I've seen Xavier Johnson make probably 8 or 9 reverse layups in his face. That's an over exaggeration, but I feel
which is
like
hard because Xavier Johnson struggles at like making layups. So
yes, but that's the only ones I've noticed. There's probably 1,000 more. He can't guard a guard when they're going downhill. They're going to be in trouble. He's going to get in foul trouble, and they're not going to have a big to play. Obviously, they have 1,000 guys from Indiana coming in as freshmen, but
let me just throw this out there. If Indiana doesn't sweep them, which they have not done in I don't know how long.
Is this a wager? Am I going to have to?
No. I don't want to bet this at all, but
no. I think that since you're going out to say this, I think that you should have to do a forfeit if they don't sweep them. Not a huge one, but
what do you mean a forfeit?
Something embarrassed.
That's fine. It's not really like that. I'm saying this will happen. Like I'm saying if it doesn't, it's an embarrassment. Indiana should beat them twice.
Okay.
Handedly.
I think by next podcast, I'm going to have 2 punishments. One, if they go 1-1, and another one if they go 0-2.
Okay.
Deal? And by the next episode, I'll present them to you. And
if they go 0-2 against Purdue next year, oh my, like that is going to look so bad. Like they just beat the best Purdue team like ever. They just beat them once. Like if they lose to like one of the worst Purdue teams in like the last 10 years, oh my God, not good.
Okay, so I'll think of the punishments, but I think that's a thing that we have to do. Might involve Wyatt because I think Wyatt would be perfect for this punishment. But let's kind of move on to Michigan State. Another team. Look, what's the common theme with all of these teams that I've said? Depleted rosters. Complete depleted rosters. I mean, their star of the show is going to be Tyson Walker. You know, he's a transfer from Northeastern. He lost Max Christie, but played fine. I mean, AJ Hogard, obviously Joey Hauser.
By the way, hate that guy.
Was it there? Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't there a lot of like fights going on at the end of that game? Yeah. Indiana, Michigan State, or going into halftime or something. Yeah,
like he was fighting Coach like Mike Woodson. Like he was literally verbally getting into it with him, and I think Woodson was going to put him in the ground. Would have loved to see that.
You're picking Woodson in that fight?
Yes.
Dumb question. All right. Yeah. AJ Hogard, obviously Joey Hauser, infamously, I got him mixed up with Sam Hauser on the podcast. Remember when we were previewing the season? Yeah. Infamously got him mixed up and thought he was going to be really good. I was like, he's awesome. Like, what are you guys saying? He's awesome. Wrong, brother. Malik Hall.
I hate Malik Hall too. Like I can't stand it. He has one good game a year, and it's against Indiana at Michigan State. He'll have like 23 points. He'll make 4 or 5 threes, and then won't make a 3 the rest of the season.
I mean, this team is going to be. I mean, they basically brought back the whole roster minus the 2 most important pieces. Didn't bring anybody in. You know, they lost Gabe Brown. They lost Max Christie. The ceiling's not very high.
They lost their bigs too. They lost Marble.
Yes, Bingham. Yes, I forgot Marble did transfer. The ceiling's not high, but I would say that the floor is not extremely low. Like I see this as probably a tournament team. You know, one of those. No offense, Connor, but one of those Big Ten teams that get in the tournament, even though they have no chance to actually win a game, and they get in as like a a 10 or 11 seed. That's where
I would
kind of see
agree.
Michigan State. Okay.
I would agree with you on that, but the problem is the strength of schedule usually is good because there's a lot of good Big Ten teams. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. Like,
Well, who
it's going
knows
to be.
though? Well, who knows?
I don't
It's
think
kind of
all these teams can get in. Like, there's no way they're going to get 9 teams in because everybody's going to be bad.
yes, but they all are also look. There's a lot of name value too. And
That's
look,
true.
I know we're getting into Kim Pom and stuff like that, where actually stats are taking the lead in this instead of
Is
name
there a
value.
Ken Pom rating for head coach
There's Kim
named
Pom rating
Tom
for
Izzo
everything.
or like Matt Painter or like just being a favorite of like the college basketball analyst / committee? Like,
Oh, that is called the net rating.
okay.
But yeah, yes, I think there will be a lot of that in the play. But I mean, Tom Izzo probably, if
Big
not
markets
his,
too.
yeah, if not his last year, coming up. But sorry, but yeah, I think it's coming up because I thought he might retire after last year.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really thought of that. I don't even know how old Tom Izzo is, to be honest.
I mean, he's been around forever.
He has been around forever. He is a guy that I see not liking
67, 67 years old. Yeah.
I just don't see him
no
liking
way
where the game is going. But again, like Boeheim, I was talking to Blake the other day. He was like, Boeheim went to the presser. It was like, yep, I'm the last Boeheim left and I'm not going anywhere. And it was just like, oh my God, dude, like take the hint. You need to leave. We're not trying to fire you, but we don't want you here anymore.
I mean, he is handcuffing that program. Like that is for a while.
It's sad.
For a while, like growing up, obviously in the era that we grew up, when Boeheim was kind of in his prime, directly after Melo, getting MCW onto campus, getting a lot of those guys. Like Syracuse was almost, believe it or not, kind of on the brink of being a blue blood. Kind of. They were getting there because they were perennial, always in the mix.
Like Villanova.
Yeah,
just not as good.
Except not as good. Didn't win the championships. Obviously, they won with Melo.
They're always making a run, though.
Yeah, always making a run. And now, since Boeheim is still the coach and he's 107 years old, they're not going anywhere. They're kind of just treading water, not really getting a lot of guys. Like
I don't know.
They run out like 6-man rotations because he's obviously he's very old.
Ran out a 6-man rotation and 2 of them were his sons. Like
he can't recruit. He can't recruit. He just can't. Like very odd. Very odd.
He needs to just hire Carmelo, and I think that would help him. Like just hire Carmelo Anthony, and that would help him. Get him away from the NBA because Carmelo needs to retire. And hire him on.
They're both. They both need to just say, "Look, I'm done with this job."
Carmelo could just take over the program.
Yeah, maybe they should just switch. Boeheim becomes the power forward for the Los Angeles Lakers, and Melo's the Syracuse. That
wouldn't be much of a difference. Carmelo just stands on the 3-point line and shoots. So,
yeah, definitely. No, Michigan State. I don't know how we got to there, but yeah, Michigan State. I don't think they're going to be any good unless Tyson Walker goes absolutely nuclear. I mean, they just didn't do anything. And obviously, I'll see them the first game of the season in Indy. Connor, really need to be thinking about going to that game. Sorry.
We were talking about that.
Didn't answer me. I sent out the text. I sent out, hey,
I don't know.
We need to be looking at tickets for this November game in Indy because they're going to be outrageous price.
I cannot commit to a game that is like at least 6 months away. That just isn't possible.
Didn't even answer me. That's fine, but yeah.
Just for the record, Joey Hauser is the projected starting center for Michigan State on Rothstein's lineup.
Center?
So, yes.
Nice. Yeah.
They might win 3 games.
All right, moving on. I think this is my favorite in the entire Big Ten. Connor's going to disagree with me. I'm probably going to sound a little bit like a hypocrite. I like Illinois. I'm sorry. I like Illinois a lot. Look.
It's gross. Disgusting.
Illinois is bringing in maybe their best recruiting class in a long time. Sky Clark, obviously former Kentucky commit. I was very high on him. He had the injury. He dropped in the recruiting ranks, decommitted, went to Illinois, whatever. Fine. Wishing the best for him. Very marketable kid. I'm going to say that for the rest of the episode. Very marketable kid. Awesome player when he's at his best. I love it. Ty Rodgers, they've had him on for forever. He showcased his talents in, I think, the Jordan Brand Classic game. He was a beast there. And then, according to my spreadsheet, Connor, I know you love the spreadsheet, they have the 5th best transfer class in the whole nation. Bringing in, obviously, Terrence Shannon. Bringing in a Matthew Meyer. And then the only thing that this team, the only hole that I could possibly see, and Connor, I know you're going to jump all over it, so that's why I'm going to kind of cover it. They don't really have a center. They don't have a proven center.
They don't have any front court players.
Matthew Meyer
is going to be like a guard.
Oh no.
You think Matthew Meyer's going to be down in the post up against Trace?
But he'll be playing that 4 slot, or Coleman Hawkins will play that 4 slot.
Coleman Hawkins is
what are you gonna
you think he's a starting you think he's a starting caliber forward in the Big Ten? Like he is not. He is Jacob Grandison light. Like he's just not as good in every aspect of his game.
Did he not start for them last year in multiple games?
When Grandison was out, he had to start.
Okay.
He was not good.
He played fine.
No. He played fine against Indiana in the Big Ten tournament, and Indiana still beat them.
We'll see. We'll see how he progresses. But I think Dane Danger, their awesome name, by the way. Awesome name. He's the unproven big from Baylor. He was a high recruit. He transferred over from there. Obviously, a versatile big. He'll probably have to start day one.
He is projected as the starting. Good luck replacing Kofi, man. Good luck.
Well, they're going to change how their offense runs. Like obviously last year it was run it through Kofi.
Who's the main scorer?
I mean,
do they have a number one?
It'll be interesting. I mean, Matthew Meyer or Terrence Shannon. It's going to be one of those two. We'll see how We'll see how good Sky Clark is. It's a 3-headed monster.
I can't believe.
I think Ty Rodgers is going to be good.
I can't believe you're actually having them as the favorite because Matthew Meyer. Everybody expected this big jump from him this past season at Baylor, and it just didn't happen. Correct. Really bad. Like he was a first team all preseason, like all American, it seemed like, and he just wasn't very good. Terrence Shannon is fine.
Somebody's probably going to find a clip of me last year saying I don't believe in Matthew Meyer jumping this year. So yeah, that'll be fun to see.
Terrence Shannon, he's good. I have no problem with saying he's good, but as a scoring option, he's like a number 3/4, like on a really good team. I mean, Texas Tech last year had like 5 people average 10 points per game. So it was just like there was no clear-cut scorer. Sky Clark could be good, but he's a freshman. Corbello was good as a freshman, so maybe there's that thing going on at Illinois. But again, they have no bench. They have no bench. They have no front court players. They have a freshman point guard, and they have 2 other players that can't be number 1 options scoring. So I don't understand.
You don't understand the hype.
There is no hype other than from you, really, because Rothstein has them at 37.
37?
On this
he has them at
37. 45. They're abysmal, man. They're not good.
Maybe. All right. Well, we'll see how my takes go. I already have 2 bold takes out in the open. I think Illinois and Indiana are going to be 1-2, in my opinion. I think Illinois is going to be able to figure it out with that core. I really do like that core, man.
What's I could be wrong. Like I don't even. I just don't even get it.
I really liked Terrence Shannon when he entered the portal. I wish Kentucky would look 2 top 10 guys in the portal. And maybe the spreadsheet is going to end up killing me. But Meyer at number 5, Shannon at number 8. That's huge. Those are 2 contributing pieces on 2 teams that were really, really good last year.
I get that, but the losses
hurt. I agree. Yes. I think weird enough, I know Kofi, he was huge for them. I think their biggest loss may be the stability at point guard and Trent Frazier. I think that may be because he was awesome for them last year. People forget, like he impressed me the most on that team. Yeah.
We got to watch him and he just torched Indiana. Like, it was terrible. Look, I don't think that Brad Underwood is going to know what to do game 1 when Kofi is not out there, because
that could be true.
I just don't. That's their whole thing. It's been get the ball to Kofi and spread everybody else out and have a bunch of shooters surrounding him. Like, I mean, you lose literally every single player that was a contributor. Like, it's going to be really interesting. There could be okay, but I don't have them finishing 1 or 2 in the Big Ten. Like, maybe in the top 5, but again, that's just more of an indictment on how bad everybody else. Like Rutgers, again, like I don't know if we're going to mention them.
No, those are the only teams I'm mentioning.
McConnell came back, which was unfortunate. I think
they're not going to be good.
No, but he's kind of a pest. I don't like him. Maybe Chris Murray turns into Keegan Murray and he's really good.
That's true. Yeah. That might be my surprise team. If there was one.
They lost some other guys too. Obviously
Bohannon. I think they brought back Perkins. They lost.
No, Perkins left.
Did Perkins leave too? They lost another.
Perkins left, yeah.
I might be thinking
Toussaint. They lost Toussaint.
They lost Toussaint. I was thinking of Toussaint. Yep. That will hurt. But yeah. I mean, look, you said they lost Kofi. Obviously.
Actually, let me check on Perkins because I don't know if they lost him now that I'm thinking about it.
I don't think they did lose Perkins, but Dane Danger, 6'9", 270. He is huge. Just will say that, not saying he's as good as Kofi, but he was never utilized at Baylor. We'll see how that goes. Who knows? I will say Illinois knows how to use a big guy like that.
It's fair.
That's it. That's enough of the Big Ten preview. Connor, we obviously know where Connor goes because those are the competitors. It's insane how bad the Big Ten is this coming year. At least there was some semblance of hope from the offseason last year when we called them bad. I don't see it this year. So that is why we are very skeptical is the right word, I believe.
Yeah. One more comment on the Big Ten. My prediction on that is they are going to be like the ACC. I think they're going to have, 3 or 4 decent teams, pretty good teams. I don't think they'll maybe be as talented at the top. Like I think Duke was really good. North Carolina obviously made their run, but the depth that the Big Ten has always been able to hold their hat on, especially last year, that was our claim to fame when nobody thought, at top of the Big Ten, nobody really thought there was any national title contenders. Well, it was the depth of the conference. Well, it's the conference as a whole. Can't really use that one this year, I don't think. But again, maybe everybody's going to be down and the Big Ten won't look as bad. Like, who knows? Maybe it's just going to be kind of a down year in college basketball. I don't really.
I mean, they will have. Look, I mean, Maryland is bringing in that Jameer Young kid, who's obviously he was a 20-point per game scorer at
new
Charlotte.
Coach. They could be a little bit better.
Maybe get a little bit spicy there. And then you got, Penn State got 1,000 transfers.
They're my surprise team. They're my surprise team. I think Micah Shrewsbury is a really good coach, and I mean the way they can compete in the Big Ten tournament showed that he just needs some dudes. And I mean they're competing with really low level talent last year.
Yep. And then Then you got Minnesota, who got Darcy Garcia, which whatever. And then to be honest, that's about it. Like it is, it's wild to see it. It's wild to see it like that. They're going to surprise us in some avenues. That's just how they roll. But who knows? Hopefully, it's a bit competitive because it did suck. As much as we loved hating the ACC, it sucked that they weren't even a bit of a thought in our minds. Obviously, tournament, Notre Dame impressed, North Carolina obviously impressed, Duke impressed a lot. So we could be surprised.
Yep.
Pleasantly.
That's always the fun part about it. But there's always going to be a lot of questions. But I do have some questions for you now.
Good transition.
Bringing up the national landscape, because honestly, I'm looking at some of these teams, and one of them is North Carolina. We're out on North Carolina already.
Whoa. Have we said that on the podcast? I think we have.
If we haven't, we're at, again, prefacing this, they're the UCLA of
yes,
which
okay.
I was on.
I think
you didn't believe that. You weren't on that last year. I was always on. Bryce and I were on that from the beginning. Like, we just never really bought into them.
They always had injuries too.
Yes,
I think that roster was a little bit better than this UNC roster. I will say.
Yeah.
Kill me, whatever.
Yeah. Like North Carolina is like number 1, number 2, depending on where you have Gonzaga. I out on them. Not as that they're a bad team. They're probably still top 15, top 20, but not number 1, number 2. But the first team I'm going to ask you on is Houston.
Okay.
Are they for real?
I think they're for real.
Like top 6, top 7?
Yeah, because I think where they ended up at the end of last year, it was impressive. It was impressive to see, obviously, without Marcus Sasser down the stretch. And I think Kelvin Sampson is a fantastic coach. I think he's one of the best in the nation. The style they play, the way they just dominate teams, I really like to see it. Obviously, they're kind of the AAC is getting a little bit better, with Memphis there, but the conference will always run through Houston. I really like Houston because I'm not saying they're running it back completely, but the kind of core of that roster coming back, obviously Marcus Sasser, huge, their best player. Yeah. He's an amazing player. So I like Houston. I thought they were playing, let's see, when they lost to Villanova, correct?
Yes.
I think them and Villanova before, obviously, I'm already forgetting players' names. Who got hurt before Justin Moore got hurt, right? Correct?
Yes, correct.
All right. I was making sure on that first name. Before Justin Moore got hurt, I think those two teams were playing the best in the tournament. I think Houston and Villanova. And then Justin Moore got hurt. Obviously, they didn't have anything for Kansas. So, I really like Houston. I really do think they're going to be a top 6 team coming into next year. I have them probably top 4.
Yeah, I can't say I disagree. I think that they're really good again. I think it, still hurts a little bit that Kelvin Sampson's really good. No big deal though. Next one, I'm kind of interested on this. I don't know where you're going to go here. Creighton, top 10.
Yeah.
Let me just preface this. Rothstein has them at 3.
Yeah, everybody loves Creighton. I'm going to kind of cheat here a little bit and look back at their roster because I do want to make sure that I know who's returning and who's not. Actually, name me who he has because I know you're looking at Rothstein's site.
I was actually looking at Andy Katz's site, to be honest with you.
Whatever. Yeah.
I was just looking at the names. I feel like we talked about this maybe off.
I did. I know we talked about in the last podcast.
Yeah, I think you were just bringing up that everybody that they had from this past year's team is gone. but
no, not what I said. They
didn't play in together. Sorry, not gone.
They didn't play in the tournament. They weren't playing when Creighton made their run, which may sound like a silly argument, whatever. But I mean, Nimhard wasn't playing. O'Connor wasn't playing. Like that team was not playing.
Yeah.
And obviously they're coming back. Add in Baylor Shireman, who's obviously a top transfer. I'd want to see. I was excited to bring him to Lexington because I thought that may have been an option. Obviously that fell through. So I'm not saying he's a bad player. I do want to see how he translates to Big East play because that's a tough conference to play in. It's physical. So I want to see how he goes through that. He could turn into a Doug McDermott type player. And if so, then they're definitely a top 5 team. I'm more out on them than a lot of people are. So depending on where you set the bar, I think I'm going to call them frauds. I don't have them top 5.
Will they be top 10 when the next season ends?
Bottom like 8, 9, 10. I think I can see them being 8, 9, 10, maybe.
So 2 seed in the tournament or no?
Top 3 seed.
All right, it's fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting. I don't really have a strong opinion on them yet. I don't know, the mid-major teams. You know how I feel about mid-major teams. I just don't.
Are you calling Creighton a mid-major team?
Kind of. I mean, they're not.
They
they're
play
not
in the Big East.
Yeah. Whatever.
Whoa! Time out. Wait. We got to unpack this. Are you still thinking of them as Missouri Valley?
I mean, I know they're in the Big East, but it's just like, are they the Big East team? Like,
there are some teams in the Big East that weird me out that they're a part of the Big East. Like, I still can't believe Butler is. I still see Butler as Horizon League.
I don't consider them like one of. I don't know.
I mean, it's your UConn and Villanova. That's what you consider Big East, and I know Syracuse is ACC, but I still see Syracuse.
I like the old Big East, man. Like Louisville, Syracuse. Like I don't know.
Yeah,
that's just.
But they are in the Big East. I do want to clarify. They definitely are a part of the Big East.
Yes.
Calling them a mid-major is very funny.
They're just disrespectful as it gets.
Now, on every tweet if Creighton is really good or whatever, and if they do something good in the tournament, we just got to say, man, you got to love to see these mid-majors in the tournament. Yeah. It's them and Gonzaga are the best mid-majors in the nation right now.
All right. So another team, again, I'm just looking at this. They're high on Rothstein and Andy Katz rankings on his power rankings. TCU.
I love TCU.
I mean, they were really, that Arizona game was fantastic.
Dude.
But are they top 10 good?
I wouldn't say they're top 10 good. It's really hard for me to say that, but the way that they kind of finished last season, Jamie Dixon had them rolling. He had them absolutely rolling. They're bringing back everybody. I sent you something. They were last 2 to bring in Adam Miller, and I sent to you and Bryson, I believe, when it was happening. I said, if they land Adam Miller, they're in my top 10. Like, I think I would maybe put them at number 2 or 3 in the Big 12 rankings. Now, I'm not saying I don't think they're better than Creighton. I think they're right below them. I'd have them in the 12 to 15 range. Look, Mike Miles coming back is huge. I think he's in contention to be an All-American type guard. Eddie Lampkin coming back, he's awesome. He's very, very fun to watch. Like, this team, I really like him. Yeah, I really do like them, and I love how they played against Arizona. That really got me hyped. That was like, you see those games, and you see that team returning everybody, and you're just kind of like, okay, this team's going to be good next year.
Again, though, are they a team that kind of just caught lightning in a bottle, or do you think they build off of it? I think there's going to be. I feel like there's a lot of teams that made the tournament last year that are either they're kind of running it back. Like I think Gonzaga is kind of in that category now, running it back. Obviously, they lose Chep, you get Timmy back. North Carolina, I think Kentucky to a certain degree is going to have Oscar and Severe. Like it's going to be that same kind of thing. Indiana's another one. TCU is another one. Again, I think Indiana is going to be better. We think North Carolina. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how running it back.
It's making everybody hypocrites because because you get to pick and choose which running it back you think is good for the program and which running it back you think is bad. Like I think TCU running it back is awesome because I don't think they're building off the Arizona game. I think they're building off the game when they beat Kansas earlier in the year because that's when they started to get better and better. Remember, they weren't really in the tournament. They were on the bubble. And then after that, they just kept getting better and better. I believe they won a game or two in the Big 12, and then they got to that 8 or 9 seed.
Yeah.
And obviously gave Arizona a game, an absolute game, smashed Seton Hall in the first round. I really like this team. And like they're one, if you remember, oh my gosh, when they didn't call the foul at the end of the Arizona game. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And I was kind of on the side. I was like, let him play because
we were messaging immediately.
Yeah. But then I started watching it and it was definitely a foul.
All I had to say was, what would happen if that was Kentucky? And you were like, oh yeah, I probably would have thrown my phone in the wall. Probably should be a foul.
Yeah. But I mean, if that doesn't happen, they beat Arizona because they would have gone to the free throw line. And I'd assume a player like Mike Miles is going to hit both of those free throws.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who knows? I think this team could be really good. I think they're going to give Kansas a run for their money. I mean, we can get into some of the Big 12 teams if you want. I know you have some teams you definitely.
I got one more team left.
Okay.
One more team.
All right. We can move
Texas.
On. Yeah, I knew it was coming. I was all in. All right. I'm gonna give us. I saw a clip about Stephen A. on TikTok, and he said the word soliloquy, and he got roasted about it. So I'm gonna give my soliloquy here. So last year there was not a bigger supporter of Texas in college basketball landscape that offseason than me. I was number one. I was like, all right, Chris Beard. I loved him at Texas Tech. He's going to get it rolling. Then the season started. Marcus Carr almost left the team. Andrew Jones, he just decided I'm going
Which
to.
Which is wild, by the way. Marcus Carr is still on the team.
Yeah, still on the team. Andrew Jones just took the biggest back seat in history. I thought he was just going to take over. But no, Marcus Carr took a lot of his touches. Obviously, I thought Timmy Allen was going to be a stud, like all Big 12, everything, and he was probably their best player. I think he was their leading scorer from last year. Christian Bishop, I don't even think he really played that much. And then, obviously, the dude from Vandy, I don't even remember his name because he never played.
Dylan Dessou?
Dylan Dessou.
Still there, by the way. Still there.
Okay. And then obviously Trey Mitchell leaves in the middle of the year. They were a dumpster fire. They were the definition of a dumpster fire. Somehow still got a 5 seed in the tournament. Got beat by Purdue.
6?
They were no, they were a 6 seed. They were 6 seed because thanks for calling me out because they played number 3 seed Purdue in the next round. Yeah, they were a dumpster fire, and they probably beat Purdue if they don't foul him 1,000 times that game. I'm out. I'm out this year. I'm so out on this Texas team. I can't do it. I know they got Tyrese Hunter, but I'm low on Tyrese Hunter. I know he's ranked high in all these transfers, stuff like that, but he's coming from an Iowa State team that was also pretty weird. When you're looking at Texas, what do you want? You want some, actual scoring because that's not really what they did well. Like they just kind of mucked the game up. That's what Tyrese Hunter did at Iowa State. I mean, Iowa State was not proficient offensively at all. Yeah, I mean, I'm out.
Are they
on
better
Texas.
than Indiana?
I'd put them on the same tier. Now, if
Okay.
they're better, I don't know what that tier is for me. Probably what, like
Are
15,
they top
15
15?
through 20.
Are they
No,
top 15? Okay.
just outside of that
I'm like
top 15.
comparing
No, I know. I know.
like
How much different is mine than theirs?
Texas is 12 and Indiana's 13 on Rothstein's 45. On Andy Katz, Indiana's 7 and Texas is 9. So
7.
Oh.
Yeah, I know you're getting so excited. I can see you trying to temper that because I do.
Look,
I know
for our sake,
your
for
highs are
our
highs and
sake,
your lows are lows.
for our sake, having Indiana be in the top 10, just the buzz, getting to go to the games. I mean,
That's huge for us.
Something we'll get to, remember forever, and hopefully it happens. And I just don't want to be disappointed. I just don't want to be disappointed. Yeah. Hopefully we get North Carolina. I'm still holding out hope for that. ACC Big Ten. I don't know when that gets announced, but love to get North Carolina. I mean, that'd be top 5. Not top 5. They'd be top 5 probably by that time, and Indiana's hopefully still ranked. And that'd be a fun matchup to be able to see.
I'm clipping that. That was too good.
I don't know where they're going to be ranked. I really don't. There's a lot of people have them in the top 15 now, which is weird. Like they just got this boost because, again, like you said, everybody else had people leave, and somehow that boosts Indiana. I don't really understand that, but
nationally it boosted, but it was just like
not even in the conference. It was like a national, like, oh, they're just going to move up 3 or 4 spots, even when most of the Big Ten teams were already behind them.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I mean, good on them. I think that makes the buzz around the podcast way better. I think.
Is Indiana better than Kentucky?
No.
Because hold on, need to throw this out there because, again, this is going to be year 4. You and Bryson still have a bet on.
I know about the bet, Connor. I know about the bet.
So this is Kentucky. The year. Like, this has to be the year. Someone is going to win a tournament game this year because, again, you're not counting Indiana's, which I think is a little BS, by the way.
No, the bet was not who's the first team to win a game in tournament. It's which team goes farther in the tournament.
Oh, okay. I thought it was first team to win.
No. It was
like a win a game
goes farther. No. That would be such a technicality, and I would be so pissed if I had to bet. I don't think it. I don't know. Hopefully, it gets resolved this year. What if it doesn't?
It's going to be a sad off-season podcast. I mean, Cal's going to get fired, and Indiana fans are going to be right back where they were. Is Kentucky top 5 good?
I think so. I think.
Oh,
I do. Because look,
let's
man.
Just end this right now. End this right now.
I think with what I see, if you follow Kentucky page and you follow all that, the negativity around the program is crazy. But when you look at it, when you look at it from a national perspective, you're bringing back best player in the country from last year. You start. I'm just going on paper.
Bismack Bayambo. shout out producer Sim.
Bring back the best player in the country from last year. You're bringing back the top assist man in the SEC. You're bringing in 2 top 10 caliber freshmen. You're bringing in CJ Frederick, who didn't play last year, who can
hold on 2 top 10.
Well, depending on what you look at, you can mess with stats all you want. It's Livingston and Wallace.
Livingston's barely he's not even a 5 anymore.
Yeah. There's a couple that still have him top 10.
He sucks. I'm out on him. You were so out on him when he was going to go to Memphis too. It's so funny. That now
No,
that he's at Kentucky, you're thinking that he's going to be some
that
great
is
player.
such a lie. That is
Underdeveloped, not going to be any good.
Can I keep going?
I guess.
You're bringing CJ Frederick, who didn't play last year, who's a sharpshooter. Antonio Reeves. Antonio Reeves averaged 20 points per game last year. And he can light it up.
He's like Kellen Grady light. Like he's going to be, I like that. I'm going to start using that more. He's like Kellen Grady, but he's not even going to be as good as Kellen Grady was.
And then my favorite piece to the puzzle. Can you guess it?
Yes, I think I know who it's going to be.
Can't forget about him.
Toppin. Yeah.
Can't forget about Toppin. I love Toppin. I think
sucks.
Look, coming back after.
Hey, by the way, big decision for him to not go to the draft. I know he waited until the last minute. But again, I know in the mocks, he was, mocked to go in the lottery or something. But, good for him to come back. That undrafted paycheck probably wasn't looking too nice.
Gosh, you're so you are trying to cut off any chance of us getting Jacob Toppin on the podcast. You're trying to cut off any chance.
I'm being brutally honest.
Who else did you say? Any chance of us getting Matthew Meyer, Coleman Hawkins,
the entire Creighton basketball team?
The entire Creighton. Mid-majors was a line, dude. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I like Toppin. I think he's going to flourish now that he doesn't have that leash on him that Keon Brooks provided because they had to start Keon. He's a starting 4 now.
Yikes.
I love it. I think he's going to be.
Didn't they try basically the entire offseason to find someone to play the 4? And now that they failed and whiffed on everybody, they have to play him. They're going to have to play him there.
This offseason?
Yeah.
No. It was always top. It was always Shireman would have played the 3.
Okay.
He's only 6'6".
Yeah, small. You don't need anybody taller than that to play the 4 when you have Oscar down there because apparently he can rebound everything.
It's true. That is very true. He's a machine.
Maybe Cal could move to the 21st century and actually.
Yeah, but but I'm not the coach. Cal's the coach. Cal plays. If he's not playing,
you can't tell
bigs, he has to get very close to it.
That Kentucky's roster construction, it's one of the worst in the countries. You can't bash Indiana's roster construction.
Your front court is Race Thompson and Trace Jackson Davis. And
Race Thompson is more of a proven shooter from 3 than Jacob Toppin.
Oh my God, that is just I'm about to end the podcast. Thank you for joining me, Connor. That's just totally true. Outlandish take to end the episode. You calling Creighton a mid-major and saying that Race Thompson is a more proven shooter than anybody in the country. It's just
Jacob Toppin.
Crazy.
It's just Jacob Toppin.
So thank you for joining me, Connor.
You're welcome.
I hope to get you down here in Nashville soon. If anybody's in Nashville, any of our listeners, hit me up. We'll do some meet and greets, whatever. Nobody wants to do a meet and greet with me. But anyways, thank you for joining me, Connor. We got a lot more episodes coming up. The draft is coming up soon. We got to do some sort of special for that. We might have to do another draft thinking into it. But thanks again, Connor. Love you guys.